It's always like, I'm gonna end out there by this.
Okay, we are going to cover an interesting topic today because we had a speaker push from this week. So I've been dealing with something with one of my clients, Eric and I have for the last 2.5 weeks, that I figured is very appropriate, and things happened that I didn't even know happened. And so I was like, better yet than a few of us share our knowledge, considering you have bankers and financial people in the room. So Paul ended up having to be gone last minute, but Michelle's going to take a few, Laura's going to take a few, Eric's going to take a few, I'm going to take a few of the most commonly seen scams that are run this day via phone, internet, computer. I mean, they happen all the way, text also. So let's go to the next one. So how a scammer contacts you, it's widely varietal. They can call on the phone, which is how one of our clients was recently had. They can send a text message, like, you know, when you get that text message and it's like, you have an Amazon charge for $1,000, click here to confirm. That's how they get your information. So when you get one of those, don't ever click it. Sometimes people will call saying you have an exorbitant Amazon charge or a UPS delivery or something like that. It is always best not to click the link, not to give information unless you are expecting a package. Okay. Phishing is a new term we're going to learn today. So phishing is a form of social engineering where attackers deceive people into revealing sensitive information or installing malware on one's computer. The use of emails and websites that falsely represent or claim to be associated with legitimate banks, financial institutions, or companies is also phishing. So, for example, let's say it's Comerica, but one letter is missing or they're switched. That's something you'll often see when a place is trying to get you to enter your credentials. So say you're doing online banking and you're like, oh, it's just off by one, and you don't notice and you put in your info. That's how phishers and scammers get your information, is by just those little tweaks to how something would usually be spelled. If someone calls or texts you or emails you asking for any personal information, do not give it to them. Email is not secure. Texting is not secure. Only give your social security number, any of that verbally. The only exception I'm going to give to that for the credit card number is if you are buying something online or you purchase something, in the website address, there will be like a little lock on top. And that's how you know it's a secure connection where no one could be gleaning your information as you're entering it. But quite frankly, I still recommend if you do online purchasing, you do it through a credit card so you have some recourse immediately to dispute any charges. Okay. Next, spoofing is another word we're going to learn today. So a spoof occurs when a caller disguises their information to show on your caller ID. Like, have you guys ever heard or know someone who's gotten a call from PG&E and it says their power is about to be shut off and it says PG&E on their caller ID? That's what's crazy, is these people can do things you wouldn't even, I mean, that's all they have to do all day long is sit there and dream up ways to scam people out of money. So they are very, very crafty. So it will say PG&E. And someone will call you and say your power is about to be shut off unless you make this payment. Always hang up and call back the real PG&E number. Like, pull out your bill and call back the number that is on your bill. Never pay from someone calling you. Okay, next one is we're going to kick it to Michele. You want to come up?
Sure.
Next couple ones, actually, we're going to kick to Michele. Tell me when you're done with it, and I'll move to the
See
next
what this
one.
one is. So, advanced fee scam, I haven't actually heard it called that before, but there's a lot of things here. So I know you've all heard about the Canadian lottery. You've all heard about, people in Nigeria want to send you money. This actually is really happening. It's happening to local people. I had a woman, that banked with me when I worked at another bank that came in and they trained the tellers on this too. This older woman came in and wanted to withdraw like $3,000 in cash. It's kind of all she had in her bank account, and he looked, she doesn't normally do anything like that. So he was asking her why she was withdrawing so much cash, because they're trained to do that. So when your banker asks you why you're doing something, tell them. She wouldn't tell him. She said it was none of his business. So that's another red flag if they're not giving up the information. So he was uncomfortable. So he brought me over. I took her into my office and we were talking, and she would not tell me why she needed this money. And so I just said, I'm just concerned for you. I'm concerned because this is out of pattern. So this is my job to protect you. So I know you're uncomfortable talking about this. It's money. People don't like that, but we're here to protect you. So then she let it out that she had won the Canadian lottery. And that the guys from Canada were at her house waiting for her to come home with this money. These are the pre-taxes that you had to pay for that money. So she left before they got there. So she left her house unlocked for them to let themselves in while she was at the bank. So this was a very intelligent woman at one time, but she got excited and caught up with everything they were telling her. So this happens. It happens to our folks here. It happens everywhere. And years later, the FBI came and actually told me that was part of a huge scam out of Afghanistan, actually. So Canada wasn't even involved. So those things happen. We did call the sheriff. The sheriff did go out to her property. Nobody was there, but they stayed at her house. They kept a car out there all day and all night in case somebody showed up. So they're on it. They know what they're doing, but it was a little scary because she fell for it. So that's one example.
And Publishers Clearinghouse, I haven't known that.
Oh, I just Publishers Clearinghouse just called me like 2 weeks ago. I was at a dog park. My phone rings and it says Publishers Clearinghouse. I thought, this is gonna be interesting. So I answered it and he said, hey, I'm calling to make sure you got your $9,999,000 check. It should have been delivered today. I'm like, awesome. I didn't get it yet. He goes, well, tell me let's confirm your address. I said, well, tell me what you got. He goes, no, you have to tell me because I don't know who I'm talking to. I said, well, neither do I. He said, you're talking to Publishers Clearinghouse. I said, well, then tell me what address you sent my $9,999,000 to, because I haven't got it yet, but I'm super excited to get it. And I even asked if it came with balloons and everything. And he's like, well, no, you have to tell me your address. And I said, well, I'm not gonna tell you my address. So we'll just, hope it shows up. So then I hung up. So they're trying, and I had to have fun, because have you ever played? How do you even play Publishers Clearinghouse? I don't even know if that's a thing. Yes, sir.
My wife got the same call Monday.
Oh, yeah, they're out there. Yes, Dave. Dave,
Yeah, can you bring me the
of
microphone?
course.
Well, I got almost scammed. I hard to believe I consider myself kind of aware of the sophisticated guy. And this is about a year and a half ago. I got a phone call one morning. And it was an individual identifying themselves with the Santa Cruz Police Department. And they said that unfortunately, they had picked up this young man. They're calling me because it's my grandson.
We're gonna get into that one, Dave.
Yeah,
Don't
that's coming.
tackle it. It's coming.
Yeah,
Can we hold that story?
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. We're getting there.
It's still interesting. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Get back to you, Dave.
Yeah, and actually, so before I go to this one, anybody watch the Today Show this morning? similar to that, there's a new AI scam where they are able to clone somebody's voice. And so this woman, her daughter supposedly called her crying that she had been kidnapped and they want $1 million immediately. And so she had the wherewithal to not immediately give them, you know, any banking information. She called her husband, who was with their daughter. But the woman said that it had her tone. It said the person spoke like her daughter, responded and said things like her daughter would. So the advice was, in your family, have a safe word. So if you're having this conversation, it seems weird, it seems crazy, there's a word to say so they know it's you. So, side note, this one happened to my father. So my father, engineer, worked with the Space Shuttle program, quality control for years and years. He was military, very smart, very sharp, knows what he's doing. He got scammed because he got a phone call from a computer company telling him there was a virus on his computer and that they would happily fix it for him. All he had to do was turn on the computer, log in, and remotely share his computer with them so they can go in and kill the virus. So he happily did this because he gets viruses all the time. And they got in, and once they got in, they asked him for a credit card for the initial $300 fee to fix this virus. It was only $300, thought that was a bargain. So he gave them $300, he gave them credit card information for a $300 charge, and they were in his computer. Well, they stayed in his computer and kept putting viruses on it. So then they kept calling him and charging him again and again and again to a little over $3,000 before my mom got the credit card bill and didn't understand what any of it was. So she called me. What do? I advise her to call the credit card company. If you see things on your accounts, the second you see it, you got to call your bank. Some banks give you 30 days to report fraud, others 45, others 60. So you got to find out what your bank's policy is, because if you wait after those, they're not going to help you. They're not going to refund the money to you. So that's tech support. What else?
Counter for checks.
So this is old. I mean, this has been happening forever, and then it kind of stopped because everybody was doing electronic wire scams and ACH scams. Well, check fraud is back. And I don't know why, but it's back with a vengeance because it's really, really easy. Because there's so many places you can go to order checks. So if you put a check to your mom in the mail and it's got that check now has your routing number, your account number, and your signature. Somebody steals it out of your mailbox, they're just going through mailboxes. They don't have to have anything to do with you or the person you're sending the check to. They're just taking the check, they're logging into Costco or checks.com or whatever, and they're ordering checks with your routing number and account number, and they have your signature. So they are having a heyday. So if you're not paying attention to your bank account every month when you get your statement or whenever you log into online banking, this can add up quite a bit. One of the nonprofits I worked with just went through this for about $250,000 in a 3-day period. Because this nonprofit does write large checks like this, so it wasn't out of pattern. And the signatures matched perfectly to the signatures of one of the signers. So they just took a check, printed some new ones, because you can also buy them at Staples, and then they've gone through. So check fraud is back with a vengeance. They can also be altered easily again because they, electronic is actually safer, even though it's scarier. It is safer than a check because the lower level, less sophisticated thieves can get the checks out of your mailbox. And they do, they love it. But so this is going wild right now. I mean, wild. So all banks have a service called Positive Pay. It's mainly for businesses, but some might have it for personal, so check your bank. And Positive Pay, what they do, it's kind of a pain in the butt for you, but if it's easier than losing 250 grand in 3 days. Every time you write checks, so most businesses write checks like once a week. You then electronically send a ledger to your bank, letting them know what checks you've written, who they're payable to and how much. And then as those checks are clearing the bank, if a check is different or not one included or something, the check number doesn't match the dollar amount or something, the bank will not cash it, it'll hold it. It will send you an email and ask you to approve or deny that check. And that happens every time checks come through, so it's kind of labor intensive, but it's definitely worth it. So if you are, I think it's really only a business product, so if you have a business, check that out, it's a really great service.
The last one on here is the deposit, the cashier's check overpay and then wire money back when you lose that money when the cashier's check bounces.
Oh, that one's fun.
Yeah.
So that normally kind of comes when you when you sold something to somebody on eBay or something, they are giving you a cashier's check, but they gave the cashier's check to you. Let's say they sold you something you sold them something for $1,000 and they accidentally wrote the check for $1,500. And they say, well, just, take the check and then give me the 500 back, however you want to do that. And people do this. And then the cashier's check comes back as fraud. So that still happens a lot. That really is kind of a more of an eBay thing or Craigslist when you're buying things from people. If they, had a buffer amount, there's not a buffer amount.
And cash only.
Yeah.
Just say cash only transaction.
Cash is
That's it.
king.
Okay, perfect. So next we're gonna have Eric come up and talk first about foreign money exchange scams. Nigerian friends.
I'm gonna skip this one for right now, because there's a couple I want to get to, and for sake of time, there are ones that are actively going right now, so that so that you guys can be aware of those. So the last week and a half, 2 weeks, we have been dealing with a horrible one. So it started out as the clearinghouse, Publishers Clearinghouse. So he called her, said, you want $1 million, but you have to send me $10,000 in order to get your $1 million. I don't know how they're getting the names of who's playing Publishers Clearinghouse, but they're getting the names of the people who have been playing this game. This lady's been playing it 20 years, so you can imagine when she thought she finally won. So when she called to take 10,000 out of her account, which she never takes money out of her account, she only puts money into her account, it was a red flag. Kendra kind of started probing a little bit, realized, okay, this is what's going on. These guys are so good. I couldn't believe it. I actually got him on the phone, so I had a little conversation with him, and he turned it from Publishers Clearinghouse into a romance. So he built such a strong relationship with her that now they're kind of boyfriend-girlfriend thing going on here. And it got to the point where we had to call her children in Humboldt, who came down. She threw her own son out of her house because he was trying to break up her relationship with this guy. This is how far she went down the rabbit hole. I hate to say this, but it's just been my experience, 9 out of 10 of our clients who have had some type of scam are single ladies that are widows. That seems to be the target-rich environment, at least with our clients. And we're still kind of dealing with it. However, she was dealing with a local bank. I called the bank, said, look, if she comes in to take out this large amount of money, please, this is what's going on. For whatever reason, she went in, completely cleared out her bank account of the cash. This is a week into this, so we've told her everything we've done. Her son catches her at the post office with a stack of money like this, getting ready to put it in the mail. He calls me, she won't listen to him. And I said, would you please just give me 5 minutes, meet me, I'll meet you at your house. I went over and met her. We had a long talk, finally got her to not deliver that money. We're still dealing with it. I still have to check in with her, because when I got him on the phone, I was at her house going through why she shouldn't be doing this. And the phone rang, so I grabbed it off the table and I looked and I was like, do you know 305? She said, oh, no, I have no idea. So now I know who it is. So I answered it. And the vulgarity of this guy that came out of his mouth when he started talking to me, well, I couldn't believe it. So I hit speaker so she could hear the way he was talking to me. Still didn't get through to her. So I guess my point of this little thing is these guys have gotten so good at targeting people that they genuinely believe are either lonely, sad, whatever it is, or like my old Polish 5th grade teacher said, there's no free lunch. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And those sayings stick around for generations because they're true. Okay.
Grandparents. Scam.
Oh, so my grandfather got a call from my cousin who was in jail in Mexico. And it was his attorney that was calling my grandfather saying, if he does not have the 10,000, it wasn't even 10, it's like $5,000 to pay off the Mexican federale to get him out, he was going to prison for 10 years. And they needed the money wired that day in order to pay it off to get him out. And what Michele is saying is right. There's new voice artificial intelligence software that can mimic my voice perfectly. And so if you're ever getting a call from a relative or a grandson or grandchild or something that's in jail, you know that's a scam. You know, hopefully your grandkid isn't in jail in, you know, Mexico, but be very leery of that one.
IRS, government imposters.
Okay, the IRS will never call you and ask you for money unless you call them first and they go, we're really busy. We will call you back in 15 or 20 minutes. And they're actually really good at that. They actually call back kind of in that little time frame. But out of the blue, Karen, does the IRS ever call you and ask you for money over the phone? Did everybody hear that? No. The IRS will never call you and ask you for money over the phone. So if you get that call, call Karen, call your CPA, call your tax person, ask them, okay? Or look it up online and check it first, but never over the phone. Is that it?
Yep, you're
Okay.
good. Okay, the next one is the bogus debt scam. So you'll receive a letter in the mail threatening you that you have this debt and you have not paid it and you will go to jail, be taken to collections, whatever that is. Real legitimate creditors will always be able to prove to you that the debt exists. So pull your credit card report, pull your credit report, see if it's there, see if it's on your record if you actually owe something. If it is on your record, then you need an attorney because you've had an identity theft issue if it is not your actual debt. So never take a call saying, oh, you owe this debt. Always do your research before paying up. Don't just pay up on the phone. And if someone tells you you have to stay on the phone to pay this, if you can't hang up, that is always a red flag that is a scam. If you are not allowed to hang up that phone and call someone back later, it 1000%, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, it is a scam because their goal is to keep you on that phone call so you can't check to see whether it's legitimate or not. Okay. Next one is Laura is going to talk about the home repair scam.
Remember we were having all those earthquakes a while back and aftershocks. My lovely mother-in-law was living at the Deanza trailer park, you know, the beautiful view, have the ocean right in front. My father-in-law had dementia, so it was a great place for them. They got to sit on the front porch and everyone would walk by to go to the clubhouse or go to the pool and they would chit chat and it was idyllic. My mother-in-law was a business teacher in high school and she has a nursing background. And she is a tiger when it comes to researching and getting right answers. But these lovely gentlemen would come by and talk to her about what she might need to keep herself safe in her double wide trailer mobile home in this beautiful on the ocean park. And they retrofitted her structure underneath the, with supports. So that sounded practical, right? You know, we were having earthquakes. We need to be safe. Retrofitted. Couple of years later, we had a few more earthquakes. And there's another young person that came by, very charming, was going through the whole park and chit-chatted and told her how fortunate she was to live in this beautiful place, and he retrofitted with supports underneath the double wide mobile home. A couple of years later, we weren't tracking this. A couple of years later, a third young man came by with the same scam. And she was about ready to sign the papers. And thank goodness for him, he went under and checked and said, you have 3 retrofitted supports underneath this trailer. And each one of them were about $1,500 to $2,000. And by this time, there's nothing that she could do.
Annuity scam.
So another lovely person came and was working the park. And developed a friendship with my mother-in-law and told her as a financial plan that she has some money sitting in an account and that it would behoove her because she could get a lot more money if she invested it in an annuity. But they didn't call it an annuity. It was some other kind of benefit. So she transferred $90,000 into the, and we did catch that when we were within the 30 days, so we were able to contact the company and said, no, you return the money right now. This is inappropriate. And they said that they would. During that period of time, my father-in-law died. And then we returned it as a death benefit, which then triggers some kind of tax consequences on the $90,000. And it took us probably about 5 years to get it all fixed up between the IRS and the annuity company. So I think part of it was these people gain your trust, they're charming. There wasn't anything else. My mother-in-law had limited access because of my father-in-law's disabilities, and she was taken advantage of, even though she's a very intelligent woman.
Business on the gumballs. And the.
Oh, yeah, this is the third one. So mostly these 3 stories are about not just for ourselves to be on the lookout for scams, but also for the people and the people that we love around us. And our see, it's hard for me to say elderly parents. Sometimes in that category myself, but yeah. And I do tell these stories to my kids and say, you better watch for me. You never know what I might do. So this one was, we were actually at my mother-in-law's and the UPS arrived and they started offloading these gumballs in her living room, gumball machines in her living room. I go, Mom, what are you doing? What is this about? She goes, oh yeah, you know, I have this enterprise. The enterprise is, it's really easy. All I have to do is put the gumballs back in the machine. And I said, well, where are you gonna put the machine? She goes, oh, they recommend that I contact all the dentist office. It would be a really good place. And we said, no, stop. You take all these gumball machines and put them back into the truck. She is not accepting delivery.
Oh my God. So that one, and then the mining, the coding.
Oh, yeah, yeah. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Okay.
It's 123.
Okay, so this was quite a while back. Now, my mother-in-law was a business teacher, right? She taught business. And she also was a supervisor for, I think, the billing department at Sears at one point. So we're talking about someone that, you know, deals with money. and current technology when it comes to finances. Someone had talked her into the fact that if she bought this computer, she would then have online classes and a real person to talk to that would teach her how to develop websites for other businesses. Now, my mother-in-law would open her computer every morning and call me and say, the computer looks different, I just turned it on. Can you come over and you tell me what's wrong? That was her level of sophistication. And she ended up with a computer that was expensive, but as far as the other things, we were able to cut it off at that point. But, and we didn't do it right away. We were very respectful. We said, Mom, this is great. You know, let's start the lessons. And every morning she'd call me again and say, Laura, I turned on the computer and it doesn't look the same as yesterday. And I said, so we let her have at it for about 3 weeks. And then we said, Mom, you know, what do you think? And she goes, I'm too confused. I can't do that. So one of the grandkids got the computer. So let's watch out for each other.
Yes, okay, the last one is the shopping scam. So if you get a phone call offering you a $500 shopping spree or any other amount, and they'll say from the Macy's or a government agency, and then they'll just ask for your bank account number to collect a small transaction fee. That is a scam too. They will ask for a shipping and handling fee on your vouchers. That's a scam too. Basically, my whole goal of today is don't pick up your phone and don't answer your emails unless you know who it's coming from. And even then, if there is an attachment you're not expecting, call the person and be like, hey, were you sending me something? Like just last week, Eric's mom sent something and it was definitely not something she intended to send. Somehow on Facebook, someone sent something looking like it was her, and they can get your information somehow, just one click of the wrong thing, and it can be sent out to your whole group. So if you are not expecting an attachment from somebody, call them and say, hey, I just got something from you. Should I open this? Is this something you sent me? It never is a bad look to do your research and ask before you do it. No one will ever be like, oh, you're wasting my time. They'll be like, good job. I'm glad you checked. Okay.
So,
and the last one, so beware of buying gifts at the holidays. Those can always be scams too. So go do your shopping at Macy's. Don't buy stuff online from like places other than Amazon and Etsy and legitimate places. The last one is when you go on a vacation or you are renting a home. More often than not, you will find a scam if it is on Craigslist. My friend's parents went out of town for 2 weeks and they had rented a room to this lady and she was showing their house while they were on their 2-week vacation, taking deposit money from people. I mean, it was on the news. They got sued because she was doing it in their name right up in Felton. So beware when you're renting a house for the holidays, go through a reputable source like Airbnb or VRBO, somewhere where you have recourse. And if you are renting a home, do your research. Make sure that it's not also on Craigslist. If the grammar is off or the language is off, if they can't talk to you on the phone, you know, there are red flags. Don't overlook the red flags. Always listen to your gut and pay attention to the red flags. So if there's one thing we learned, was it don't answer your emails, don't answer your phones, and don't meet your girlfriend online, okay? Yes, Rich.
So these scams where they pretend to be a bank
Yes.
and they make a little spelling error or something like that. Why is it they don't get it exactly right so that it looks like it's a legitimate website? Is that because the real bank will go after them or something?
Because the real bank has the website.
Right, but I mean, why don't the fraudsters just make it look perfect? Why do they just?
Well, it does look perfect on the actual website, but it's just in that little web address. That's the only part that's wrong, and it's because they can't get the URL for the real one. Karen?
Yeah, and if you hover over who it came from, you know, if it says it came from the bank, but if you hover over who it's from, the email address won't be a bank, right? So hover over where it comes from. That will show you that's not the bank. Yeah.
That's a simple one.
yeah. Any other thing that we can do?
Yes, I forgot to tell you. So the other thing, and this surprised me there was another, if they want you to go buy gift cards in order to send to them to pay them, 1, 2, 3, that's a scam. Okay, so always remember this. Google is an amazing resource for you. We all have phones that see the number that called us, right? Right?
Right.
You can go to Google, type in that phone number. 9 times out of 10, if it's a scam, it'll pop up, the number will pop up and it'll say scam with that phone number. So if you're ever, that's just one way to check phone numbers, websites, people's names. To go to Google and check that out and see if maybe it pops up and shows you that.
Okay, Laura, time for you to pull the.
Okay,
Right
so,
at time.
all right at time. So remember, let's sign up before midnight if you want to save $5 for the walk around.
There's where you can meet your
Right.
next person. Is it the wine wander? Not the No.
Okay. Kendra.
Okay,
And they won't scam you.
7.
That's me.
Oh.
All right, so we'll see you at the 4th of July, see you at the assembly,
This
evening
next
meeting
Thursday.
next Thursday. And, any more signups? Do the signups get all the way around?
Do we have to, how are we on? Oh,
Okay,
we are pretty good. Awesome. If anyone else wants to add to the heavy shift of beer at 10:30 to 1:30, you have 1 or 2 spots still open.
okay, Art, you have to quit.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly, for waiting.
This was a wonderful presentation. Very well. Thank you for doing.
Oh, you're very welcome.